The woman held her glass of drink firmly as she spoke to the black waitress. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" The whole restaurant went silent. Every staff member froze. Every guest turned to look. Rachel's voice cut through the air, her anger simmering as she stared Zara, the black waitress, down. She expected Zara to crumble, to apologize, to shrink under her superiority. But little did she know that the woman she had just humiliated was the most powerful woman in the resort. As we delve into the story, if you believe everyone should be treated with respect, click on the subscribe button and tell us where you're watching from. Only those who support prejudice and injustice won't subscribe now. The resort was everything you'd expect from a place meant for the elite. Luxurious, tucked away, and exclusive. People from all over the world came to escape, to indulge, to forget their busy lives for a while. It was a haven for those who could afford it. This resort is owned by Zara Thompson, a young black woman in her early 30s. She had worked her ass off to own it, but nobody knew who she really was, and she was okay with that. Zara didn't need the spotlight. She was here to enjoy the peace, to blend in. She had the principle of joining the staff once in a year to carry out their duties. Today, she was serving drinks, doing a waitress round in the restaurant, with a quiet presence in the background. No one really noticed her, and that was exactly how she liked it. Then, Rachel showed up. Rachel, a white woman in her early 40s, loud, flashy, and more than a little bit entitled, stepped into the resort like she owned the place. And as far as she was concerned, she did. Everything about her screamed, she's better than everyone. She was the kind of person who didn't think twice about telling someone how they should behave, especially the people who worked for her. She made her way through the restaurant, taking in the high-end decor and the lavishness of it all. Rachel didn't want just luxury. She wanted to be treated like royalty. She didn't even bother trying to hide her disdain for the staff. They were there to serve her, and that's it. Rachel walked into the resort's dining area, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor, and immediately, her eyes scanned the room as if she were hunting for something or someone to command. Her gaze landed on Zara, who was moving quietly between the tables, taking orders, keeping things flowing as smoothly as always. Zara's calm presence seemed to go unnoticed by most, but Rachel noticed her. Without hesitation, she walked up to Zara, barely glancing at her as she slid into the seat at a nearby table. Her tone was already condescending, like she was speaking to someone who had no choice but to listen. "Can you hurry it up?" Rachel's voice was sharp, dismissive. "It's not like you have anything better to do than serve me." Zara's heart tightened just a little. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Instead, she offered a polite smile, the kind that told people everything they needed to know about her. "I'm here, I'm doing my job, and I'm not about to make a scene." Her eyes flickered briefly, betraying the calm exterior just enough for someone paying close attention to see the hint of pain, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. She nodded and took Rachel's order, every step of it carefully measured. "Sure, I'll be right back with that, ma'am." She didn't flinch, didn't make a scene. She was calm, composed. Rachel's attitude didn't stop there, though. No, she kept going. It was like she couldn't help herself. As Zara moved around the restaurant, Rachel kept barking orders, acting like every demand was the most important thing in the world. When something wasn't on the menu, Rachel didn't care. She demanded it anyway. When the staff didn't move fast enough for her, she let them know. When she needed a drink refill, she called for Zara from across the room, as though she were a servant. Rachel was in her own world, a world where the people around her existed solely to serve her desires. The weight of her arrogance was suffocating, but Zara didn't get upset. She didn't snap back. She didn't argue. She just kept moving, kept doing her job with grace and professionalism. Zara could feel the sting of Rachel's attitude, the ignorance, but she knew better than to react. She'd been in situations like this before. In fact, she'd faced it every day for years. People like Rachel, who assumed their wealth or status meant they could get away with treating people however they liked, had no idea what it was like to be on the other side. Zara stayed professional, keeping her distance, moving between tables, making sure everyone was taken care of. But she watched. She saw how Rachel treated others, how she treated the man who'd offered to help her with her luggage, and how she spoke to the waiter who accidentally spilled a little water. The waiter stammered out an apology, but Rachel just rolled her eyes, acting as if his apology didn't even matter. Rachel had been on a rampage all day. She came to this resort expecting to be treated like royalty, and when things didn't go exactly her way, she made sure everyone knew just how important she was. She insulted the staff. She humiliated the servers. She had made demands that were impossible to meet, and then threw a fit when they weren't met. First, it was the drink that wasn't mixed to her liking. She had thrown a disgusted look at the waiter and snapped, "Do you even know what you're doing? Or is this the best you can manage?" Then it was the temperature of her food. Too cold, too hot, too whatever she could find to complain about. Then she moved on to humiliating the cleaning staff. She had walked into her suite, looked around and scoffed. "This is unacceptable. I wouldn't let a stray dog sleep in here." She snapped her fingers, called for the staff, and demanded that they re-clean the entire room while she stood there criticizing their every move. If you think everyone deserves respect, no matter their job or position, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Rachel thrived on control, on feeling superior. She treated the workers like they were beneath her, because in her mind, they were. Then things escalated. Rachel began harassing the workers more aggressively. She made impossible demands, insulting them for every little mistake. She walked through the restaurant like she owned it, shoving plates aside, rolling her eyes, muttering under her breath. She wanted attention. She wanted control. And Zara? Zara gave her nothing. Zara stayed quiet, continued serving tables, continued watching. But now it was at the height of it all and she needed to put Rachel in her place. Then it happened. Rachel saw Zara from afar tending to other guests in the resort. She called unto her rudely, which Zara ignored. She stood up from her table, marched over to Zara and hissed, "Are you deaf or just stupid?" The whole restaurant went silent. Every staff member froze. Every guest turned to look. Rachel's voice cut through the air, her anger simmering as she stared Zara down. She expected Zara to crumble, to apologize, to shrink under her superiority. But Zara just looked at her, and that only made Rachel angrier. So she did the unthinkable. Rachel raised her hand. She was going to slap her. She was actually going to slap her. But before Rachel's hand could land, Zara caught it, and everything changed. Rachel gasped. Zara's grip was firm, unshaken. For the first time all day, Rachel wasn't in control. Zara looked her dead in the eye, her voice steady, unbothered, absolute. "You need to get out." Rachel blinked. She didn't understand. She tried to pull her hand back, but Zara didn't let go. And that's when Zara said the words that made Rachel's stomach drop. "I own this resort, and I will order the security to get you out of here now." Suddenly, the manager came around the scene and turned to Zara. "Everything is in order, Miss Thompson. We're ready for tomorrow's meeting with the shareholders," he said. Rachel felt like the world had just tilted on its axis. Shareholders? Miss Thompson? That name again. And now she was hearing a message about meetings, about decisions, about business. The more she pieced it together, the clearer it became. Zara wasn't just working here. She owned this place. And just like that, Rachel's entire world shattered. Rachel blinked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no words, no snarky response, no smug comeback. She was speechless. It was the first time in a long time that Rachel found herself at a complete loss. Zara wasn't just another worker. She wasn't some employee struggling to make ends meet. She wasn't someone who needed to bow down to Rachel's money, her influence, her entitlement. Zara was the owner. The person Rachel had been demeaning all day owned everything around her. Rachel's mouth fell open. The words hit her like a slap to the face, the slap she had just tried to deliver. She stared at Zara, but the woman in front of her wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was the most powerful person in the room. Rachel's entire body went cold. No. No, no, no. This had to be a joke. Rachel's lips parted but no words came out. She was too stunned to speak. Rachel couldn't move. She had belittled this woman, insulted her, treated her like nothing. And now? Now she was the one with nothing. She had walked into this resort thinking she was better than everyone. Now she was being kicked out by the woman who owned it all. Rachel's face burned with embarrassment. Her hands shook. She had humiliated herself. And Zara? Zara hadn't lifted a finger to stop her. She had just let Rachel destroy herself. Rachel tried to backpedal. She opened her mouth, forced out a laugh. I didn't know. I wouldn't have. But Zara didn't need an apology. She had already made her decision. She turned to the manager and said, "Make sure she's escorted out. We don't tolerate disrespect here." And just like that, Rachel was to be removed from the resort. Her power was gone. Her ego was shattered. She had lost. And Zara never even raised her voice. Rachel's arrogance didn't even faze Zara. It wasn't new. It wasn't the first time someone had tried to belittle her for doing something they thought was beneath them. And Rachel had no idea what was coming. Rachel could feel her entire body heat up in humiliation. Had she really just spent the entire day talking down to the most powerful person in the resort? Zara didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She didn't throw Rachel's ignorance in her face. She didn't need to. Because standing there, completely composed, looking Rachel in the eye, Zara had already won. Rachel took a slow step back, trying to process. Her mind was racing, trying to put the pieces together. How? How had she missed this? Rachel had spent her entire life believing that people like Zara, people who worked in the service industry, who carried trays and wiped down tables, were beneath her. She had never considered the possibility that someone like Zara could be the one in charge. And now? Now, she had to face the reality that everything she thought she knew was dead wrong. Zara could see the storm of emotions flashing across Rachel's face. The embarrassment, the shock, the realization that she had been completely, utterly wrong. And for the first time in a long time, Rachel had to face the truth. Power doesn't come from money. It comes from the way you carry yourself, from knowing who you are. Rachel's world had just collapsed around her. She had spent the entire day treating Zara like nothing, belittling her, dismissing her, acting like she was just another employee who should be grateful to serve someone as important as her. But now, Rachel knew the truth. Zara wasn't just an employee. She wasn't just a waitress. She wasn't just anyone. She was the owner. Rachel stood there, her face flushed with humiliation, her hands tightening around the edges of her expensive handbag as reality hit her like a freight train. She had been so wrong. For the first time since she arrived at the resort, Rachel felt small. She tried to speak, tried to come up with something, anything that could undo the damage. I didn't realize. I didn't mean to. But the words didn't come out right. Because how do you take back a whole day's worth of insults? How do you fix something that has already been shattered? Rachel tried to smooth over her mistake. Listen, I had no idea who you were. I didn't know. Zara didn't blink. She took a deep breath, but she didn't mock Rachel, didn't throw her mistake in her face. She simply looked at her, calm and composed, her voice steady. What would you do if you were Zara? Would you forgive Rachel or kick her out of the resort? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe now. You've made your assumptions, Rachel, and I understand, but everyone deserves respect, whether they own a resort or serve drinks at a table. Let this be a lesson to you about how you treat others. Zara said to Rachel. Zara didn't need to say anything else. She had already won. Without another word, she turned and walked away, back to running the resort that Rachel had been enjoying all along. Everyone around began to laugh and mock Rachel as the security men came to bounce her out. Zara's silence had already done more damage than words ever could. Rachel still couldn't believe that she spent the entire day treating people like they were beneath her. And now she was the one being shown the door. Zara turned away as Rachel was escorted out. Her presence still commanding, still powerful. The staff stood taller. They had seen someone finally stand up for them. And Zara? Zara walked away, head held high, untouched, unbothered. Because real power doesn't come from how loudly you demand it. It comes from knowing who you are, and never letting anyone take that from you. Rachel had thought she could walk all over the staff, but in the end, she was the one who got walked out. Because respect isn't optional. And Zara made sure she'd never forget it. The staff, the other guests, everyone had witnessed what had just happened. They had seen Rachel's downfall, her embarrassment, her realization that she wasn't as powerful as she thought she was. And Rachel? Rachel was left standing there, feeling the weight of her own arrogance. But Zara wasn't finished. She had more to do. This wasn't just about Rachel. This was about every worker, every staff member, every person who had ever been disrespected by someone who thought they were better than them. Zara walked to the front desk, her posture straight, her presence commanding. The manager immediately stood up, ready to listen. And with a voice calm but firm, Zara made her decision. Rachel has been banned from this resort. Wait, hold on. You can't kick me out. There's no other resort close by that's as good as this one. The manager didn't even have to respond. It wasn't his decision to make. It was Zara's. And Zara had already made up her mind. Rachel wanted to argue. She wanted to fight back, to throw her weight around, but what could she say? Rachel opened her mouth again, but Zara's voice cut through the air. This resort operates with dignity, Rachel. If you can't respect the people who work here, then you don't belong here. Rachel's chest tightened. She had never been held accountable like this before, and now it was too late. The staff didn't argue. They simply followed Zara's orders, escorting Rachel out of the dining area, out of the luxury she thought was hers for the taking. She had walked into this resort thinking she was the most powerful person here. And now she was being escorted out by the very people she had looked down on. The staff looked at Zara with admiration. She had stood up for them. She had shown them that no matter how much money someone had, no one was above treating others with respect. That was true power. Power wasn't about money. It wasn't about how loudly you spoke or how many people you could boss around. Power was in the way you carried yourself. It was in knowing who you were. And Zara knew exactly who she was. She didn't need to flaunt her wealth. She didn't need to scream for respect. She just needed to be herself. And that was enough. Rachel was gone. And Zara was exactly where she was meant to be, on top. And she had gotten there without ever lowering herself to Rachel's level. That's what real power looks like. If you enjoyed this story, click the subscribe button, like and share with others. See you in the next one.